The U.S. Supreme Court's examination of Nvidia's bid to avoid a securities fraud lawsuit introduction. The battle over Nvidia's alleged misleading statements. The U.S. Supreme Court recently convened to deliberate on a critical legal issue, whether Nvidia, the renowned artificial intelligence chipmaker, should be forced to face a securities fraud lawsuit. The lawsuit accuses the company of misleading investors about the extent to which its sales were influenced by the volatile cryptocurrency market. This case is one of the most significant securities cases to come before the court in recent years, with far-reaching implications for how companies disclose their financial activities and how investors can hold corporations accountable for alleged misstatements. The core of the dispute, Nvidia, and the impact of cryptocurrency sales at the heart of the case is the question of whether Nvidia and its CEO, Jensen Huang, misled investors in the years 2017 and 2018. During this period, the popularity of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum soared, and the demand for Nvidia's powerful graphics processing units surged in tandem. These CPUs were critical to cryptomining, a process where high-performance computers solve complex mathematical equations to secure cryptocurrencies on the blockchain. However, as cryptocurrency prices began to decline in late 2018, Nvidia's business suffered, with the company's revenue projections falling short. The stock price also dropped significantly, leading to investor losses. The plaintiffs in the case argue that Nvidia failed to disclose the significant role that cryptocurrency-related sales played in the company's revenue growth, thus misleading investors about the true health of the business. The role of the Private Securities Litigation Reform Act (PSLRA). A key element in this case is the Private Securities Litigation Reform Act of 1995 (PSLRA), which was designed to reduce frivolous securities fraud lawsuits. The PSLRA raised the bar for investors who wish to file a securities fraud lawsuit, requiring them to present substantial evidence before the case can proceed. Under this law, investors must not only show that a company made false or misleading statements, but they must also demonstrate that those statements were material, that is, that they would have influenced a reasonable investor's decisions. The question before the Supreme Court is whether the plaintiffs in this case have met the heightened requirements set by the PSLRA. If the court finds that the plaintiffs have not met the necessary burden of proof, it could dismiss the case, thereby providing Nvidia with a significant legal victory. The arguments before the court. A deep dive into legal complexities. On November 13, 2024, the justices of the Supreme Court heard oral arguments in the case. Neil Katyal, representing Nvidia, argued that the plaintiffs' allegations were based on faulty expert analysis and lacked sufficient detail to meet the PSLRA's standards. Deepak Gupta, representing the plaintiffs, contended that the evidence was clear enough to show that Nvidia's statements about its revenue growth, particularly in relation to the crypto market, were misleading. Justice Elena Kagan's concerns, legal complexity, and judicial capacity. One of the most pointed interventions came from Justice Elena Kagan, who expressed concerns about whether the Supreme Court was equipped to handle the technical complexities of the case. Kagan noted that the plaintiffs were essentially asking the court to resolve a factual dispute whether the crypto market truly played a significant role in Nvidia's revenue growth. She questioned whether the court was the proper venue for such a case, given its focus on broader legal principles rather than detailed fact-finding. Kagan's comments reflect a broader issue in securities fraud cases, particularly those involving rapidly evolving markets like cryptocurrency, where the technical nature of the evidence can make it difficult for the court to adjudicate. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson shared similar concerns, questioning whether requiring plaintiffs to present substantial evidence upfront would place an unfair burden on them, especially when crucial evidence is often not accessible until later stages of litigation. Chief Justice John Roberts' search for a middle ground. Chief Justice John Roberts seemed to be searching for a middle ground in the case. He acknowledged the need to prevent frivolous lawsuits, but also emphasized that plaintiffs should not be forced to provide all evidence at the outset of a case. Roberts' concern was about finding a balance between the need for sufficient evidence and ensuring that companies could not use technicalities to avoid facing legitimate legal claims. "I think that the positions on both sides are a little too absolute," Roberts said. He questioned how the court could identify the sweet spot in terms of when the PSLRA is satisfied, allowing a case to proceed without burdening plaintiffs with an impossible evidentiary standard. Nvidia's argument, insufficient evidence, and expert opinions. Nvidia's defense hinges on the idea that the plaintiff's expert opinion provided by the economic consulting firm Prism Group was too vague to support their allegations. According to Nvidia, the expert analysis simply used publicly available data and made broad calculations without enough supporting detail to meet the standards required by the PSLRA. Justice Neil Gorsuch, known for his sharp questioning, asked Gupta to respond to Nvidia's claim that the expert analysis was insufficient. Gupta countered that the analysis was valid, asserting that the Prism Group's work was based on sound math and publicly available data. Gorsuch's comment, "expensive math, I have to guess," added a bit of levity to the proceedings, but the underlying issue remains serious. Can plaintiffs rely on expert analysis that draws conclusions from publicly available data? Or must they provide more granular evidence to proceed with the case? The Ninth Circuit Court's ruling and Justice Brett Kavanaugh's concerns. In an earlier stage of the case, a federal judge dismissed the lawsuit, but the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals revived it, ruling that the plaintiffs had presented enough evidence to proceed with their claims. This decision has raised concerns among some justices, particularly Justice Brett Kavanaugh, who noted that the Ninth Circuit's ruling might create a precedent that encourages future lawsuits based on insufficient evidence. He expressed concern that such a ruling could erode the protections provided to companies by the PSLRA. This issue is of particular concern to conservative legal groups, which argue that the PSLRA was designed to prevent the kind of speculative lawsuits that could harm companies and hinder innovation. Kavanaugh's comments suggest a fear that allowing the lawsuit to proceed could result in an influx of similar cases, complicating the business environment. The impact of the case on corporate transparency and investor protections. The outcome of this case could have broad implications for corporate transparency and the legal landscape surrounding securities fraud. If the Supreme Court sides with Nvidia, it could make it more difficult for investors to hold companies accountable for alleged misleading statements, particularly in cases involving complex industries like cryptocurrency or AI. On the other hand, a ruling in favor of the plaintiffs could enhance investor protections ensuring that companies are held to a higher standard of disclosure when it comes to the risks that affect their financial performance. As technologies like cryptocurrency and artificial intelligence continue to evolve, the court's decision in this case could set important precedents for how companies disclose financial risks in the future. The Supreme Court's decision, a wait for the future with oral arguments completed, the justices will now deliberate on the case, with a ruling expected by the end of June 2024. The case will undoubtedly shape the future of securities litigation, especially in industries where the financial landscape is influenced by rapidly changing technologies and markets. As the legal community waits for the court's decision, the broader implications of the case remain clear. How the court rules will affect not only Nvidia and its investors, but also the future of securities fraud law and the ability of private litigants to hold companies accountable for alleged corporate misdeeds. Conclusion: the future of securities fraud law and corporate accountability. The Nvidia case is emblematic of the challenges faced by the modern legal system in regulating companies that operate in complex, fast-changing sectors. Whether or not the Supreme Court chooses to allow the lawsuit to proceed will have profound consequences not only for Nvidia, but also for the future of corporate accountability and investor protections. As cryptocurrency, artificial intelligence, and other emerging technologies continue to reshape the global economy, this case serves as a crucial turning point in how the law will adapt to new market realities. This article captures the essential aspects of the case and expands on the legal arguments and the potential implications for future securities fraud litigation. Would you like to continue or explore further aspects of the case? Let me know how I can assist.